Ram. Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare. So Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmahamsa Parivajakaya Sutarasata Sri Srila His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakaya Sutarasata Sri Srila His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Acarya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Kadadhari Sivasadi Siddhora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Krishna Jivasadi Ki Jai. Jai Ki Jai. Jai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. All glory to the Samgal devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glory to the Samgal devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to the Samgal devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Hare Go.
Krishna Krishna Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pacharani Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatanya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, Text 10. Srinanda Uvacha Alaksitosmin Rahasi Mama Kirhati Govraji Guru Vijati Samskaram Swasti Vachana Purvakam. Srinanda Uvacha Alaksitosmin Rahasi Mama Kirhati Govraji Guru Vijati Samskaram Swasti Vachana Purvakam. Srinanda Uvacha Alaksitosmin Rahasi Mama Kirhati Govraji Guru Vijati Samskaram Swasti Vachana Purvakam.
Srinanda Uvacha Alakshitosmin Rahasi Mama Kairapi Govraje Kurudvijati Sanskaram Swasti Vachanam Purvakam.
Srinanda Vacha Alakshitos Rashi Mama Karapi Goraje Kuru Dvijati Samskaram Swasti Vachana Purvakam.
Srinanda Uvacha Alakshito asmin rahasi Mamakaryapi Gobraje Kurudvijati Sanskaram Swasit Vachana Purvakam.
Yes.
No, I think that's all of us. Can you get a little closer to the microphone, Sudevi? There seems to be a little bit of air flowing over the microphone. It's causing wind.
Oh, we have a fan blowing, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, word for word translation. Sri Nanda Uvacha. Nanda Maharaj said to Gargamuni, Alaksita, without Kamsa's knowledge, Asmin in this cowshed, Rahasi in a very solitary place, Mamakhe even by my relatives, Api a still more secluded place, Govraje in the cowshed, Guru just execute, Dvijati Samskaram, the purificatory process of second birth, Samskarat Bhaved Dvija, Swasti Vachana Purvakam, by chanting the Vedic hymn to perform the purificatory process. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nanda Maharaj said, "My dear great sage, if you think that your performing this process of purification will make Kamsa suspicious, then secretly chant the Vedic hymn and perform the purifying process of second birth here in the cowshed of my house, without the knowledge of anyone else, even my relatives, for this process of purification is essential." So, Nanda Maharaj did not like the idea of avoiding the purificatory process. Despite the many obstacles, he wanted to take advantage of Garga Muni's presence and do what was needed. The purificatory process is essential, especially for Brahmanas, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. Therefore, since Nanda Maharaj represented himself as a Vaishya, this process of purification was essential. Formerly, such institutional activities were compulsory. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. Bhagavad Gita 4:13. Without these activities of purification, the society will be considered a society of animals. To take advantage of Garga Muni's presence, Nanda Maharaj wanted to perform the Namakarana ceremonies even secretly, without any gorgeous arrangement. Therefore, the opportunity for purification should be regarded as the essential duty of human society. In Kali Yuga, however, people have forgotten the essence. Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hi Upadhrita. Bhagavatam 1:110. In this age, people are all bad and unfortunate, and they do not accept Vedic instruction to make their life successful. Nanda Maharaj, however, did not want to neglect anything. To keep intact a happy society, advance in spiritual knowledge, he took full advantage of Garga Muni's presence to do what was necessary. How great a society has become within 5,000 years. Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya. The human life is obtained after many, many millions of births, and it is intended for purification. Previously, a father was eager to give all kinds of help to elevate his children, but at present, because of being misguided, people are prepared even to kill to avoid the responsibility of raising children. Okay, so now my husband is going to read something about Krishna Janmastami.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Good morning. All glories to Lord Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
I'm going to give a little preamble first of what this story is I'm reading and how I came upon it. And it's a story that goes back long, long ago, many years ago, many ages ago in a previous yuga. And what happened long ago was that Acarya and Sudevi got married. So actually that was 20 something years ago, 26, 27 years ago. My wife and I got married, and shortly after married, we didn't really have a honeymoon, but we went on pilgrimage to Vrindavan a few months after we got married. And we ended up spending a relatively long time there, not a full year, but close to a year there. And after I was there a little while, one friend, Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu, said, "You're here, you're not here like a tourist, you're staying here a long time, you should do some service." So I went to the temple president, who at that time was His Grace Kadamba Kanana, at that time Kadamba Kanana Prabhu, now he's Kadamba Kanana Swami, who some of you may know or may have heard some of his ecstatic kirtans. He was temple president. And he engaged me at the time. The temple was just starting to produce a temple newsletter, and he asked me to help with that a little bit. And it turned out to be a beautiful newsletter. It's actually like a little magazine, really. And they were doing it quarterly. And as far as I know, they only put out 3 issues of it. But it was really ecstatic. It would have, different Krishna pastimes in it, and interviews with devotees, and classes from exalted devotees, and all sorts of Vrindavan, information about Vrindavan and about the temple. It was really a beautiful thing. And I don't even know, I have copies from my time I was there, but I don't know if any other copies even exist. And in reality, I barely helped with it at all. I actually just interviewed a couple of devotees. Just like one at that time, that was early 90s, I suppose. Prabhupada's Samadhi was not yet finished. It was officially opened, but there was still a lot of construction going on for it. And it was actually almost becoming a bit of a scandal how long it was taking to finish it. So Kadamba Kanana, the temple president, sent me to interview the devotee who was in charge of it. And it was actually kind of funny. He spent like an hour like ranting and complaining and, the temple's not doing this to get the Samadhi done and the GBC, and like an hour of like intense ranting and criticism. And I went back to the temple president and I played it for him, and he laughed and he said, well, it'll take some editing, but we can use it. And that was turned into an article. So I really did very little with it, but I got to mix with a lot of nice devotees and senior devotees and advanced devotees at the time. So it was a real blessing for me. And one of the things that was produced for the Vrindavan Temple newsletter was this article or story entitled Sri Krishna Janma Mahotsava, or the Janmastami celebration. And it's from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. It was translated and compiled and edited. Some of these devotees you may know, some maybe not. Korma Rupa Prabhu, who has since passed away. He used to do the Care for Cows program in Vrindavan, a very amazing devotee and very sweet devotee, and very learned, also a good writer and a good editor. Narada Muni Das and Vaishnava Das. Vaishnava Das, my wife tells me, is now a sannyasi in ISKCON. Narada Muni Das, I'm not sure where he is. But they put together this narrative of Lord Krishna's appearance and Nandotsava, the celebration the day after, similar to the way that Prabhupada took the Srimad Bhagavatam and turned it into a narrative or a story in Krishna book. And all these, just like from the different narrations of Krishna's appearance, each one has a different flavor and a different angle. Just like reading the verses and purports of Srimad Bhagavatam gives one angle of vision or one flavor, and reading Prabhupada's Krishna book is a different angle and a different flavor. And those, of course, are our main sources for Krishna Lila, the Srimad Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's Krishna book. But these other things, there's different things written by the Goswamis and such, which are very sweet and interesting as accessory information. So that's what this is, and that's what I'm going to read today. Davey, could you turn the light on, please? So this is the narration of the Janmastami celebration of Nanda Maharaj, a synopsis of Sri Krishna Janma and Janma Mahotsav of Gopal Champu of Srila Jiva Goswami, compiled by Korma Rupa Das, Narada Muni Das, and Vaishnava Das. And actually, one last thing before I start reading, when my wife and I came back from Vrindavan, those many years ago, every year at Janmastami, I started reading this to the devotees, and it became almost like at least for a few years, it became a tradition that reading this wonderful pastime was part of the celebration each year. So here goes. In the glorious Yadu dynasty, there was a king named Sri Devaida who lived in Mathura with his 2 wives. Some of this was brought up in Sunday's class, but most of it is you haven't heard before probably. One queen was a Kshatriya and had a son named Surasen, and the other was a Vaishya son who was named Parjanya. In due course, Surasen became king of Mathura, and Parjanya took charge of the cows and stayed in Mahavan. Owing to his abundant saintly qualities and vast learning, Parjanya was appointed the king of the Gopas. Parjanya had 5 sons named Upananda, Abhinanda, Nanda, Sunanda, and Nandana. These glorious sons were compared to the 5 Pandavas, and the middle sons of both families, Arjuna and Nanda, had similar qualities. In time, Parjanya renounced and appointed his eldest son, Upananda, king, so that he could fully dedicate himself to the service of Govinda. Understanding Nanda's superior qualities, Upananda appointed him king of the Gopas, and he became his most valuable minister. A Gopa named Sumukha had an extraordinary daughter who was very well known for her good qualities. It was known that if one heard about this girl, saw her, thought about her, or rendered any service to her, his fame, good fortune, and reputation would increase. Sumukha understood her worth and happily presented her in charity to Nanda Maharaj. She was named Yashoda, which means one who brings fame. Nanda accepted her as his wife, and his name and fame increased until it spread all over Vraja. Time passed, and everyone in the cowherd community enjoyed prosperity, but they shared one common affliction. Nanda Maharaj had no son. This was a great source of sadness for the Gopas and Gopis. An uncommonly beautiful child would often appear in the minds of Nanda and Yashoda, yet still they were not blessed with a son, and as they grew older, it became more and more doubtful that they would have one. With the great hope of resolving this matter, some of the elderly Gopis vowed not to wear ornaments until the child was born to Yashoda. Upananda and Abhinanda were thinking how to relieve everyone's distress and decided to arrange a yagya which would grant a son. Nanda and Yashoda, however, were not interested in having any ordinary child. They only wanted the son who kept appearing in their minds and had qualities superior to those of Narayan. Since this child's opulence surpassed that of those who receive oblations of sacrifice, they had no faith that any yagya could fulfill their desire, and owing to their disinterest, the yagya failed. However, Nanda and his wife decided to perform a Dwadasi Vrata to satisfy Narayan for the purpose of getting a son like him. After 1 year of maintaining this vow, and owing to their intense love for him, Narayan simultaneously appeared in both of their dreams and said, "Why are you so worried about having a son? Owing to your affection for me, you have nothing to fear, as I appear as your son in every kalpa. Drona and Dara in the heavenly planets are your expansions, and you have been sent here so that I can advent myself. The son you always see in your mind will appear before you very soon." And then he vanished. Nanda and Yashoda became exceedingly happy with this vision and announced the news to their relatives and friends. Then an unknown woman appeared, identifying herself as Purnamasi. Everyone was very respectful to her. Using astrological calculation, she predicted Nanda would have a son who would bring good fortune to the entire world. This saintly woman described the glorious qualities of Krishna, and this caused the Brijavasis to become overwhelmed with joy. They built her a nice thatched hut on the banks of the Yamuna, where she would stay until the Lord's advent. Due to Kamsa's demoniac regime, one of Vasudev's wives, Rohini, was sent to Nanda for protection. She arrived by horse cart in the evening while many auspicious signs were present, and thus everyone was very happy to meet her. Especially Yashoda was elated and took special care of her in her pregnant condition. This meeting is compared to the merging of the Ganges and Yamuna. During the most pleasing dark fortnight in Magh, in a dream, Yashoda saw the same child who was always appearing in her mind, but this time he was covered by a very handsome girl. He came out of the heart of Nanda Maharaj and entered into hers. While the beautiful girl remained in her heart, while the beautiful child remained in her heart, the handsome girl took residence in her womb. Nanda confirmed this event, so everyone was informed and the community became euphoric. From that day on, Yashoda was pregnant, and her moon-like face increased its beauty while her breast became full and her midsection grew. The gopis were delighted and worshipped her womb with all auspicious articles. As the Supreme Lord prepared to advent himself, all the demigods appeared in Yashoda's room with presentations to receive him. The laws of nature failed as auspicious events occurred untimely. Though it was not Satya Yuga, clarity and peace of mind were present. Though it was not springtime, mogra flowers grew in abundance. Though it was not summer, ripened mangoes decorated the trees. Though it was not autumn, the sky and water were very clear. And though it was not day, the lotus flowers were in full bloom. Flowers of all seasons were blooming simultaneously. All auspicious moments and objects manifested themselves in preparation for Krishna's appearance, and astrologic considerations were all nullified. While the atmosphere was pervaded with sounds of the holy name, the Supreme Lord appeared as a beautiful child from the heart of Yashoda. His face was just like a blue lotus flower, and his eyes like lily petals. His lips appeared like red flowers, and his hands like the newly grown branches of tamal trees. On his chest was the dazzling sign of Srivatsa, and he was decorated in yellow cloth. At this point, Jiva Goswami explains that what actually creates a son is not actually the mixing of sperm and ovum. Sometimes it is seen that parents will give birth to a child who is deformed or retarded, and thus will not care for him even though he is their offspring. On the other hand, sometimes it is seen that parents develop great affection and respect for a child and regard him as their own son, though not born from them. It is the love and affection that springs from the heart that makes the child a son. Thus, it is not surprising that Krishna appeared from the heart of Yashoda and not from her womb, as she had such great affection for him. The Brijabasis also had such great affection for the Supreme Lord, they all felt that the son of Yashoda was their very own and were overwhelmed by the same joy. As the light of a candle kept within a crystal lamp remains within as well as without the crystal, so Krishna resided within the heart of Yashoda and simultaneously without in the various hearts of the cowherd community. After Krishna appeared, Yogamaya took birth from the womb of Yashoda as his younger sister to assist him in performing his Leela. Krishna simultaneously appeared in his four-armed form to satisfy the desire of Vasudeva and Devaki. They offered prayers in awe and reverence and then requested the Lord to assume the form of a normal child, thinking this would prevent Kamsa from feeling threatened and perhaps spare the child. The Lord told Vasudeva that when he assumed the form of a normal child, he should be taken to Gokula and exchanged with Yashoda's newborn female child. To satisfy the request of Vasudeva and Devaki, Yogamaya then caused Yashoda to sleep deeply and carried Krishna from her bed to the dungeon of Kamsa, just as the wind carries the aroma of a lotus flower. The four-armed Vishnu form merged into Balakrishna, and Yogamaya returned to the bed of Yashoda. Then Vasudeva carried Balakrishna across the Yamuna to Gokula, where he exchanged babies and returned. When Yashoda awakened and saw the beautiful blue lotus-like face of Balakrishna, she became extremely joyful. Milk began to flow from her breasts, her eyes shed tears, her throat choked up, and she became stagnant and unable to call her attendants. Some gopis gathered around her and began drinking the nectar of Krishna's beauty by staring at him. The gopis were so charmed by the beauty of the child that the first one wanted to cover her eyes with him, the second one wanted to place him on her head, and another on her breasts, and yet another on her heart. He appeared to be made of tamal leaves scented with musk. He captured everyone's heart as he moved his small arms and feet, which were like the soft, gentle waves of the Yamuna. A Brahmani was requested to inform Nanda Baba about the birth of his son. She was carrying fruits, flour, kumkum powder, turmeric, and other auspicious articles, and feeling elated to be hearing such good tidings. She arrived where the cows were being milked and presented herself before Nanda, but she was too thrilled to speak. However, just by seeing her joyful attitude, Nanda, Upananda, and the Gopas understood the auspicious moment had arrived. When she finally gathered her composure and announced that a son had just been born to Nanda, all the Gopas began to dance and call jubilantly, just like peacocks welcoming fresh rain. The Gopas then offered all respects to the Brahmani while she presented the auspicious articles to Nanda. He was so exhilarated that he could not utter a sound. He simply gazed at Upananda, who immediately understood his mind. and ordered that all the cows that were being milked, as well as those awaiting milking, should be given in charity to the husband of this Brahmani. He added that whatever else her husband requests should immediately be delivered to him. Nanda Maharaj then returned to his home, took bath, put on new clothes, and meditated on giving charity in so many different ways. He arranged to have the house decorated very beautifully, and it appeared just like the sky decorated by so many stars. He then started for the place Yashoda was resting. Rohini had arranged for some musicians to play drums and other instruments, and they all chanted, Nanda Ke Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaya Lal Ki. Today, Nanda is feeling excessive joy because Kanaya Lal has appeared. All the gopas and gopis began worshiping Nanda and Yashoda. Everyone felt that they were celebrating the appearance of their own son. Thus, there was not a single tinge of envy present. Anyone who hears about the bathing of Nanda Maharaj becomes purified and accumulates unlimited piety. On the way, Nanda Maharaj manifested such a variety of ecstatic symptoms that at times he became unable to walk. It was as if Lord Narayan, being so pleased with him for his proper worship of the Shalagram Shila, personally took him by the hand and assisted him in reaching the entrance gate guarding Yashoda and Krishna. The news spread to all the gopas and gopis, who immediately secured auspicious gifts and ran towards Nanda Bhavan, just as so many rivulets flow into the Ganges and increase its limits. As they arrived, they surrounded Nanda and worshipped him, who was like the moon surrounded by so many stars. Nanda sent someone to invite the Brahmanas to begin reciting Vedic mantras. Then he offered prayers to the wives of his elder brothers, who were known for being very devoted to Yashoda. Today, their dedication was confirmed, as they were feeling excessive levity, just as if the son who appeared was their very own. As Nanda came into the delivery room, Rohini teasingly concealed the child behind a curtain, refusing to let him see until he promised to give her some ornaments in charity. Nanda immediately agreed. The curtain was drawn, and Nanda beheld his son's wonderful beauty, his effulgence, auspicious marks, and limbs which were just like Chintamani. Seeing this incomparable beauty, Nanda became stunned and stood motionless, marveling at the child, while tears abundantly fell from his eyes, wetting his whole body. Upon regaining his senses, the wife of Upananda placed baby Krishna on Nanda's lap. And when Yashoda heard this, her hair stood on end. Tears began flowing from her eyes, and she experienced uncontrollable ecstasy. The Brahmanas began the Jata Karma ceremony, which involved several samskaras and chanted appropriate mantras while touching different parts of the child's body. They then performed samskaras for Yashoda, purifying her breasts. The nurse, whose duty it was to cut the umbilical cord, was waiting impatiently and excitedly to be directed to do so. When the Brahmanas began this samskara, she excitedly approached the child, but after searching 3 times was unable to find the stem. In amazement, she declared that while there was a lotus navel, there was no stem. Everyone was very astonished to hear this. The nurse pointed out the innumerable auspicious marks on the body of the child and declared that the Samudrika Shastras failed to mention many of those, as they were so unique and rare. Then Nanda Baba engaged unlimited assistance in distributing charity to innumerable recipients. First, he gave away 10,000 cows, then 1 lakh, then 10 lakh, 20 lakh, and still his heart was not fully satisfied. He then created 7 mounds of sesame seeds, each weighing 320 kilograms, and on top of them placed valuable gems and gold. These he gave away to the Brahmanas, who thought them to be heavier than mountains. There is no end to the opulence of Nanda Baba, who gave charity to unlimited Brahmanas. After this, The musicians began to fill the atmosphere with uproarious sounds as flags and festoons waved excitedly. Vrajabhumi herself profusely produced flowers and was feeling overwhelmed with ecstasy. What to speak of the Brijabasis? The bulls and cows were decorated with peacock feathers and were exceedingly delighted. What to speak of the Gopas and Gopis? And Nanda and Yashoda's happiness was unimaginable and beyond description. The elderly Gopis, who had previously vowed not to wear ornaments, and hearing that Yashoda had a son, were overwhelmed with ecstasy and decorated themselves very hastily with intricate ornaments. They sang and danced as they approached Yashoda's side. Their song described the unprecedented festival in the house of Nanda Maharaj. And here's a translation of their song. Upon hearing the news of the birth of a son to Vrajaraj and Vrajeshwari, all the gopis came running to Nanda Bhavan, decorated with flower garlands in their hair and on their bodies. In their haste, flowers fell covering the roads and created a beautiful sight. Their gleaming bodies were covered with dazzling jewelry, and as they ran with their upper cloths trailing behind towards Nanda Bhavan, coming from all directions, it appeared like a festival of lightning. Their bangles and ankle bells chimed, enhancing the uproarious music. Very dignified persons like Nanda and Upananda now abandoned all gravity and danced deliriously. What to speak of those who are frivolous? Oh, how they behaved. End of that song. The gopis were blessing baby Krishna, and as they drank the nectar of his lotus face, they sang. And here's another song. The gopas were throwing milk and dahi, and the gopis are smearing everyone with oil and turmeric. Nanda Baba is towering over the assembly, surrounded by white jubilant dancers, resembling Mandara mountain churning the ocean of milk. As the milk ocean's churning created unlimited products, so Nanda Baba is generating unlimited charity. However, the moon was produced during the churning of the milk ocean, but in this case, Krishna Chandra appeared before the churning dancers. Just see how the analogy fails here. The gopis continued to sing. The rain began to participate in the festival and washed the white and yellow bodies of the Brijabasis and created beautiful flowing waters. The maternal uncles of Krishna were running like frightened thieves, evading the paternal uncles who were like constables wanting to arrest them and cover them with dahi and turmeric. Normally, when one asks for charity, he may be given less than he desires. But today, Nanda is giving away so much that the recipients are hesitant to accept such an amount. Nanda Baba is giving without being asked and not even considering who is worthy and who is not. He is satisfying everyone's desires so much that the kalpa vriksha trees and chintamani stones are feeling defeated. While he is giving charity, he is meditating on pleasing Narayan so that all auspiciousness would fall on his son. After the festivities, everyone accompanied Nanda to the Yamuna to take bath. They covered their bodies with fragrant oil, entered the water, and played joyfully. They then dressed in clean clothes and decorated themselves with sandalwood pulp. Nearby on the banks was the hut of Purnamasi, where she sat in a very peaceful mood, her heart overflowing with joy as she witnessed the festivities which fulfilled her prediction. Nanda then came there along with all the Brijabasis to offer dandavats and glorify her. They then returned to Nanda Bhavan, where Rohini had arranged for everyone to be served sumptuous prasadam. Rohini was experiencing delight far beyond that of anyone else, despite the fact that she was away from her husband and thus should not have really been participating in any celebrations. But all this etiquette was forgotten owing to the most auspicious advent of Balakrishna. From the day of the Lord's appearance, the whole of Vraja became prosperous due to the appearance of Lord Hari. Wherever Lord Hari appears, the goddess of fortune is also present. Thus, despite Nanda Baba's extraordinary charity, still there were no shortages. Thus ends the description of how the Brijabasis became lost in delirium during the Janma Mahotsav of Lord Krishna. Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai, Nanda Baba ki jai, Yashoda Mai ki jai, Jai Jai Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I hope everyone enjoyed that.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Very lively reading of it. And just, I loved hearing the pastimes again of his birth. So that was really perfect for today. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My pleasure. Thank you. And thanks. You should thank my wife because I have to leave for work now. So I actually wasn't going to do it, but she pestered me and got me to do it. So Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Hare
Have a
Krishna,
wonderful day.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Acharya Prabhu. Very sweet.
Which book you were referring, Prabhuji?
This is a narrative derived from Gopal Champu by Srila Jiva Goswami.
Narada? What is that, Prabhuji? Narad?
It was a narration. I mean, the story was told from Gopal Champu.
Okay.
They took the translation from Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu and they turned it into, they made it into more of a story form, like Prabhupada did with the Bhagavatam, turning it into Krishna book.
Okay, narration from Gopal Temple. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. If that's everything, I have to run off to work now. So thank you very much, everybody. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Krishna Janma Mahotsav ki jai.
Jai. Okay, happy Janmastami, everyone. I believe at 9 o'clock, Mother Shobha Radhe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you want to tell everybody what's going on with Krishna book reading today?
Yes, from 9 to 5, we plan to read the Krishna book. It will be Sunday school kids for the most part. If anybody joins in, I've asked the children to keep an eye out and invite others to read if they would like to. And so they're all planning to invite some of their friends. So 9 to 5, we will read the Krishna book. We will start with chapter 1 and go for as long as wherever we end.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for putting that together.
We have to thank the kids. They are all pretty excited and enthusiastic about it.
Great, great. Those who either plan on visiting the temple or watching the festivities happening at the temple, that begins around 11 o'clock today. Darshan is open starting around 10 o'clock. The first program is from 11 to 1:30, and Pariksha Prabhu will be giving class at 12:30 today. There'll be Abhishek at 11:30, and then at 1:30 that program ends. We'll take a break, and then at 6:30 we'll start back up again. So, you know, in the spirit of the day of Janmastami, whether you are at home, whether you'll be coming to visit the temple or doing both, you know, let's take this day to really immerse ourselves in, you know, in Krishna consciousness, and really focus on Krishna's everything that we've been hearing about in Bhagavatam class. Let us fill our days. We hear about people these great sages, great devotees that talk about how all they want is their minds to be filled with, you know, the activities of Lord Krishna. This is a day when we can pause and really try to do that. So with that, I guess we can conclude. Any other announcements or anything else anybody else wants to say?
If you'll just assign host to me before we leave so that,
Yes, I'm on it, no problem.
okay.
Great.
I'll leave the meeting here so you can assign the other, the computer as host, not the iPhone.